Hey, aloha from the big island of Hawaii, the Pineapple Pentagon. We got all kinds of shit happening in the world today we can talk about. So it's time to lock and load because we got all kinds of radioactive iodine-131 particulates over Europe, Greek bank run and debt crisis shit happening. This could be the first domino to fall. Russian ambassador died today of a heart attack. My condolences. I didn't agree with him on anything, but I had my own heart problems recently, so my condolences to the wife and children. I know he had a family, and we're all people. So anyway, let's see what else is happening. There are a little Mogadishu in Sweden. They're having riots after Trump got in trouble for saying that immigration they had problems with immigration in Sweden, and I think the press was giving him problems for that, and then the next day there was a riot. And so I just wanted to read a little bit about I just kicked over a box of silver that arrived today. Shit. Anyway.
How do you kick over a box of silver? It should be heavy.
Well, because it arrived today, and I was trying to make this illuminated. It came with this illuminated magnifier loop for examining the coins and stuff, but the instructions that came with it were so tiny. I needed the magnifying glass just to read them. About installing the battery and shit, and so I put the box. First, I looked at the coins. I put the coins on the footstool. Then I took them off the footstool and put them back in the box under the footstool, and then I kicked it over the footstool. Did that answer your question? So, and in California, there was a power outage at my folks' house and behind enemy lines there in Newbury Park near Thousand Oaks, and his generator did not work. Dusty One was telling me why. Do you want to give out that tip to everybody that has a generator that doesn't know not to leave it on the concrete floor?
If they sit on a concrete floor for months, they're going to have problems, and they need to be started and ran every month. Okay,
I'm going to tell my dad that tomorrow. So I did want to start out with this Reuters story. It's real news.
Are you sure?
This is just the internet. Does it really matter? It's not like this is, Fox News, and it matters. Okay, so I'll start for Reuters. Greek pensioner Demetria says she never imagined a life reduced to food handouts. Some rice, 2 bags of pasta, a packet of chickpeas, some dates, and a tin of milk for the month. At 73, Demetria, who herself once helped the Heart Up as a Red Cross food server, is among the growing number of Greeks barely getting by. After 7 years of bailouts that poured billions of euros into their country, poverty isn't getting any better. It's getting worse, like nowhere else in the EU. Quote, "It had never even crossed my mind," unquote, she said, declining to give her last name because of the stigma still attached to accepting handouts in Greece. She says, quote, "I live frugally. I've never, ever been on holiday. Nothing, nothing, nothing." Now, more than half of her €332 monthly income, which is about $350, goes to renting a tiny Athens apartment. Half of her money goes to the rent, okay? The rest, bills. Global financial sentence fallout forced Eurozone countries to turn to international lenders. Ireland, Portugal, Cyprus all went through rescues and are back out. Their economy is growing again, but Greece, the first into a bailout in 2010, has needed 3 bailouts. Rescue funds from the EU and IMF saved Greece from bankruptcy, but the austerity and reform policies the lenders attached as conditions have helped to turn the recession into a depression. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras, I'm sure I mispronounced that name, whose leftist, I didn't take Spartan in high school, whose leftist-led government is lagging in opinion polls, has tried to make the plight of Greeks a rallying cry in the latest round of drawn-out negotiations with the lenders blocking the release of more aid. We must be careful towards a country that has been pillaged and people who have made and are continuing to make so many sacrifices in the name of Europe, he said this month. Much of the vast sums in aid money has simply been in the form of new debt used to repay old borrowings. But regardless of who is to blame for the collapse of living standards, poverty figures from the EU Statistics Agency again are startling. Greece isn't the poorest member of the EU. Poverty rates are higher in Bulgaria and Romania, but Greece isn't far behind in third place. Eurostat data showing 22% of the population were severely materially deprived in 2015. I guess they're lagging in their stats. The reality of these statistics becomes clear at places like the food bank run by Athens municipality, where Dimitri collects her monthly handouts. Here, dozens of Greeks waited solemnly with a ticket in hand to get their share. All are registered as living below the poverty line of about 370 euros a month. The needs are huge, said a municipal official in charge of the center. Figures for the food bank, which serves central Athens, show similar trend on a local scale to the wider Euro data. About 11,000 families, or 26,000 people, are registered there, up from just 2,500 in 2012 and 6,000 in 2014. About 5,000 are children. Many of the shelves and refrigerators in its stock room stood empty. What they give away depends on the sponsors themselves. Often struggling businesses can donate. We're worried because we don't know if we'll be able to meet these people's needs. There are families with young children, and on some days we haven't even got milk to give them. We just exist. International organizations, including Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, have urged the government to prioritize tackling poverty and inequality. Yeah, it's just a fucking mess. Let's see. In return for volunteering, some of the name I can't pronounce in Greek, receives handouts from the soup kitchen where she shares among her unemployed daughter and her son. Quote, "We're vegetating," she said, between setting a long wooden table for the next meal of bean soup, bread, an egg, a slice of pizza, and an apple. We just exist. Most Greeks just exist. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun in Greece. I know a lot of people go there for vacation. Across Athens, the number of Greeks sleeping rough is a testament to that. Volunteers drive a van with 2 washing machines and 2 dryers to neighborhoods where the homeless gather to help them clean up. You see the same faces, but also new ones. Co-founder of the Ithaca Mobile Laundry, as destitute men and women brought bags of laundry. I don't think there's one person who's not afraid of the future, said Demetria, the pensioner, clutching her plastic bag of ration goods. So that's what the banking crisis, who people think isn't a problem, is like in Greece, and it's just really sad. So I could just, I'd hate to think that happening in America, but, I mean, I don't know if Greece is the first domino to fall. And, here I am buying silver. I'm just, I feel guilty for doing that, but I think it's a good move. I bought a little more silver recently. It wasn't much, just a couple. It's about 2 or 3 coins and like some Gadsden flag kind of "Don't tread on me" with a snake, thing, quote, snake, 1 ounce bars. Nothing much. I think I got 10 ounces of silver. So something like that, maybe 11 or 12. Add it to my stack, and maybe one day silver for metals will take a moonshot. I don't know, but I got a scale, illuminated loop, so I could inspect the metals. But so we talked about that. Does you guys have anything to say about that, or?
Well, I thought the whole thing about them having the European Union was they all get on the euro, and if a country like Greece, or I guess even, what was it, Bulgaria and Romania or something, are struggling, the other countries pull up the slack. It ain't working, is it?
No, and the Germans are pissed because they Angela Merkel was saying Germany would be better off if they were on the mark, German mark instead of the EU. They basically, Greece blames Germany and the IMF. The IMF blames Germany and Greece, and they all blame each other, and nobody's happy. And politically, they can't do anything because their own constituents won't have it. And the Greeks are, they're starving. They're literally starving.
So I think that this just shows that sometimes a country shouldn't give up its sovereignty or shouldn't be part of a group if they're pulling somebody's dead weight. I mean, there's a difference between giving your allies aid and pulling dead weight. And I don't want to see anything bad happen with the Greek economy, but I mean, what I heard was this whole thing started with the Greek people don't pay their taxes. Okay, if that's true, then they brought it on themselves. But I don't know enough about it to know where this all came from. But what concerns me is that
bankers,
if they're part of the European Union, wouldn't the rest of Europe follow suit then?
Well, yes. If Greece leaves the EU, then they won't be the only ones. Everybody wants to leave. Germany wants to leave. France wants to leave. We got elections in France and Germany coming up, and now they're saying France was like having an investigation because they don't want the Russians interfering in their elections. It's like a mini U.S. election all over Europe, and it's like a house of mirrors. It's like they may not have Trump, but they in France they have Marine Le Pen and the conservative guy, and nobody knows what's going to happen over there in Europe except I don't know whose fault it is. If you want to insult Europe, go ahead, but I have friends there, so.
Well, no, I mean, do you think economically, because the situation in Greece is just, it's not getting any better, and the fact that they're all on the euro hasn't fixed the issue, do you think it's going to spread then?
Well, I don't know. The problem with Greece seems to be, from my limited understanding, is insolvent, starting with the bank and the banks and the governments. And Italy has the same problems with the banking system, so I don't know what's going to happen.
If Italy has financial problems, then they can send over cheaper Berettas. I'll be down with that.
Well, I mean, I said the Army going to be dumping all their Berettas, though, on the market really soon?
No, everybody thinks that the M9s are going to be for sale tomorrow. They're going to be for sale in a couple decades. It's going to take a while to phase out the M9s from the active duty. Then from there, it's going to go to the reserves. After that, they're going to go into cold storage. And then from there, they'll issue them to police departments or some sort of gun organization like the CMP or something like that. Or they'll issue them to foreign governments. When we arm rebels in other countries, we don't always arm them with the latest, greatest stuff. Sometimes we pull stuff out of the warehouses. That stuff's going to be in warehouses for years before anybody sees it. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to have an M9 tomorrow. No, you won't. No, you won't.
Well, they've got new ones. They've got new ones. I'm already an old man.
All these kids that are excited to get cheap guns. You're going to be an old man before you see a surplus M9, and depending on who's in power, I mean, if we get another president like Obama, when they're ready to release them, that president may do something to block the CMP from selling them. But typically, the government puts this stuff in cold storage for years, and it's not just our government. I mean, how do you think we're getting all these Mosin Nagants and all this other stuff? It's not like
Classic Firearms. I got an email from Classic Firearms. They got some Hugo Mausers for sale for cheap. So I mean,
they made those. They made those in the 40s and 50s, and they brought them out of storage every couple of years. They'd go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Anything that needed to be worked on was worked on. They made sure they were all good to go. They dunked them back in gasoline, put them back in cold storage. And they kept doing that into the 70s and 80s. And then they started selling them off in batches.
And now they need money, so
Yeah, so our government will do something similar. You will not see those M9s tomorrow. You will see them in decades.
Yeah, well, you can get the new version. You can if you want to spend the money, you can get a new Beretta, because the new version that didn't get picked up by the Army looks decent, to me. But I'm not an expert.
I've got an M9.
Well, I'm jealous. So, I told my dad to he just got an ammo shipment in, because I guess they're still delivering ammo to California from internet purchases. Able ammo and cheaper than dirt. I didn't tell him not to buy from cheaper than dirt, because I'm not my father's keeper. He buys from anywhere on the internet. So, but he said he has 200 rounds for his Winchester, 44, and I said 200 rounds. He said, yeah, well, isn't that a lot? I said, Dad, I have like 3,500 rounds for my AK and like 2,500 rounds for my Tavor. And my, because I was talking to my folks today, because when their generator died, they needed moral support or something, and so then my mom said I was crazy for owning that much ammo. Man, that's like gold, and that's my mom. But it's like gold is it's in, if the shit hits the fan or there's a crisis, ammo will be currency.
It isn't just that. I mean, sometimes when you buy in bulk, you save so much money. How can you pass it up?
Yeah, exactly. If I bought it by the box, one box at a time, then 2,500 would be a lot of rounds. It would have cost a lot more than when I bought like 1,000 round, cases. So, I go into the gun shop and I buy like a case of soft point AK ammo sometimes, just because I don't want to crack open the case or something, I don't want to break that virgin box seal or what tape on the box or some stupid reason, But if I don't actually open the 1,000 rounds, I know it'll always be there when I need it or something. I don't know. Psychology of ammo.
Yeah, if you don't shoot on a regular basis, then it might be hard to understand why somebody would have so much ammunition, because you can go through it pretty quick.
Speaking of going through ammo, I'm going to make it to the fucking range this week and do some shooting videos. I found some cool music to sync to it. So, and I need to do, I'm going to take my, I haven't done a video yet for my Camelback mule hydration bag. And I wanted to start the video with just how I have because it's like a day mission bag. It's not a huge bag like my bug out bag. It's just, the biggest bladder that Camelback has, and a little space for a few things, and then I'm going to run around with it all day, and might even camp out overnight there and on the range and the hunting area, past for range, and so the first half will be just me showing the bag, and then the second half will be me running around the range, blasting shit, and I'll even see if I can blow up something, blow up some explosive targets or something, have some fun with all my long guns. And which brings me to that thing I wanted to talk about, gun confiscation in Hawaii. They've got a bill. I put a link in the on gun channels and in the main feed and on the YouTube video. If you're in Hawaii, then you could go to that link, and it's from the Hawaii Free Press, and there's a take action button from the NRA, ILA, legislative action, and you can just click on it, type your name and address, and it'll send a letter to the politicians in Hawaii. Thursday, there's a Senate hearing in the state of Hawaii, Judiciary and something committee. It says, if you click on the link in the video description on the YouTube side, and it's also on gun channels. So let's see. I'm trying to look at everybody's chat all at once. Okay, Lance is saying about buying a 300 blackout barrel for his AR. CMMG. I'm not an AR guy, so maybe can somebody answer his question?
Well, what's the question?
Buying a 300 blackout barrel this week for my AR build. The CMMG barrel that is on sale has a 1-7 twist, but I'm going to be shooting mostly supersonic loads. Will this overspin the 110 to 125 grain bullets?
Ooh, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I understand where he's coming from. I've got a 300 AAC blackout upper that's in a box. It's for a future build. I don't even know the twist rate on that. I already got reload dies for it, and I bought bullets, the lighter weight and the heavier weight. And Hodgdon, I can't ever say the name of the Hodgdon, I believe sells a powder for that, CFE black, or I think it is. I just seen it this weekend at the gun show. So I know that you can load it differently or buy the ammo differently for subsonic and supersonic. And the subsonic is what will work better with the suppressor. But yeah, I would think AR15.com or some site like that would have the information, right?
Don't ask me, I have it to work. But he said he also asked, can you overstabilize it?
Man, I wish I had enough experience with the round to tell you, but I don't. I just know about some of the varieties of how you can either purchase the ammunition or load it yourself.
Well, I couldn't answer your question, and yeah, I would say wait for the reloading chat with Foose on Sunday, or try and track down Foose and ask him. He's on gun channels a lot. We can't answer that particular question. So I just wanted to say, if you're in Hawaii and you are like a registered to vote, they'll particularly pay attention to you if you fill out that form. And the National Rifle Association take action, and they'll, I click that because the hearing is on for that on that bill is on Thursday, and today's Monday. Is President's Day. Does anybody know is yeah, Foose is a pretty knowledgeable guy when it comes to reloading. It's on Sundays most of the times, but not always. I hope that helps, Lance. But yeah, if you're in Hawaii, definitely click on that link and go there for the Free Hawaii Press, and it has a link to the NRA Take Action button. Because they basically have some law bill that they want to pass that says that you can go to, they can have like an extrajudicial hearing, just an ex parte hearing where like the police can go get a warrant on probable cause and just seize your guns and ammo, without any trial, without any representation or anything. The police just go to the judge and say, we want to take this guy's guns because we're suspicious, and that's all. Then the judge issues a warrant, and the police can go into your house and take all your stuff. So I would assume that if they tried to do that, some people won't just give up their guns. But I think the best way to fight that is at the committee hearing with letters. And I think if it gets passed, it'll get challenged. And, I'm hoping that, what I think the Republicans ought to do is they ought to take the entire Ninth Circuit Appellate Court, the federal appellate court, and just assign that to Guam. And then they're talking about creating a new 12th district and something, and take all the rest of the states and put them into a new court populated by Republican appointed judges. So, Guam can be ruled by the Ninth Circuit, and nobody will ever give a shit, hear from them ever again, all those liberal Clinton appointees. And that would be, the Congress has the authority to do that. Well, it was a pretty nice day in Hawaii today. I went out for a nice walk, got my exercise, but I know that Dusty had problems finding Hawaiian beer over those last week. We were talking in the after chat last week about Hawaiian beer, and all he found was it was way past this Hawaiian beer, but we found it for him on the internet. in places by where he lives, but it's all was past its way past expiration date. So, you know, but at least they put the expiration dates on there.
And for Michigan, today was a very nice day in Michigan. We was almost 60 degrees today.
Yeah, it was pretty good weather. Smeggy went out to the range yesterday with his buddy, and it was so packed that they decided to call it off and do it another day. And on a Sunday, most people are off. And then when the weather is that good, yeah, today and yesterday it was so good. Lots of people, they were out riding bikes, walking at the gun range. It was nice. We don't get that beautiful weather all year round like you do, HBS.
Well, yeah, but we do get this damn bill. I'm just going to read it. Senate Bill 898 allows for the firearms to be seized based on an ex parte. That means just ex parte means just like the state's attorney and not yours. Warrant, an ex parte warrant application based on the low evidentiary standard of probable cause. An individual is entitled to a hearing. However, that hearing may not take place for up to 30 days. After the hearing, the seized firearms can be retained and a permanent firearm prohibition be put in place, not because of just a disqualifying offense, but merely the risk of one. It's like, we think you might rob a bank, so you can't have a gun. I mean, really? No one wants dangerous individuals to have access to firearms. However, this is not about dangerous people. The bill sets to ignore the normal rules of criminal procedure in order to promote the anti-gun agenda of the political elites and others. And that's exactly who it is, the fucking political elite. You know, it's not expedient for them, but, you know, this is Hawaii, you know. The good news, last Friday, February 10th, the House Water and Land Committee heard and unanimously passed House Bill 1589 with amendments. HB 1589 would allow the use of sound suppressors while hunting in the state of Hawaii. That would be fucking great. I can't wait to get a suppressor for mine to war. Yeah. You know, that's the whole thing. I thought like a 300 blackout, you get 300 blackout for, you know. Is there a reason you'd want to shoot supersonic out of a blackout rifle? I mean,
well, I think the supersonic would give you the maybe better accuracy. I mean, as far as not everybody's going to have a suppressed firearm, I would probably load them up both ways. I just looked it up, went to a couple different sites and did some reading. A 1 in 7 or a 1 in 8 inch twist is better for the 300 blackout for your heavier bullets that you would use on a subsonic. And I checked, and the upper I've got is a 1 in 7 inch twist from Anderson. So if I were to use subsonics in there or at some point suppress it, then that would be helpful. But until I get a suppressor, if I get a suppressor, you know, I would kind of load it either way. But
it says here in this particular article, additionally, suppressors help increase accuracy by reducing felt recoil and shot flinch.
Yeah, but for that long distance shot, you're gonna want the high velocity stuff, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being corrected. Believe me.
Like on that 300 blackout, when you go subsonic with it, you're cutting its velocity in almost half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I assume it's
go from.
It's only for CQB purposes, then, right?
Yeah. So if you want to go hunting and you've got some distance to cover, or you're doing some long distance shooting, target shooting, whatever, you're going to want that high speed. And I mean, I guess it's just preference. It's whatever you think you're going to be doing. It uses the same bullet. I believe it doesn't use the same bullet as the 30-06 or the 308. No, it doesn't. Or does it? Oh, hell. I don't know.
It's pretty much the same bullet.
Yeah, I'm looking here to see if I can find where I separated it. Yeah, I think it uses the same bullet. So, no, it doesn't, because there's a 110 grain. So I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I've got the stuff for it, but I haven't built the rifle, and I haven't done any loads for it. It's not even on the radar. That's down the road. But yeah, not everybody wants a suppressed weapon.
Well, it'd be cool to get. Right now, it's not legal in the States, so if they make it legal, it'd be fucking awesome. But we have plenty of other problems. So in the state. So anyway,
I'm not saying nobody should have them. People should have the right to have them. I think that if you want them, you should be able to have them, and I don't think they should stop anybody from using them at gun ranges because it would really help out. But now if you guys get the right to use them for hunting, you can go hog hunting, right?
Well, I could, yeah. They actually had a hog hunt officially sanctioned about a week ago over on the other side of the island in Puna, and it's a yearly event. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this riot in Sweden. I swear Zero Hedge has so many damn things on it, commercials, but it says during the evening, hundreds of young people gathered in the center of Rinkeby, which is a suburb of Stockholm. Well known for its high concentration of immigrants and people with immigrant ancestry. So these are all Somali immigrants. The problem Sweden faces integrating large numbers of Muslim immigrants is a subject on which this paper, I don't want to even pronounce this, columnist, I can't even pronounce any of this shit. This columnist written an article many times. His warnings of increasing radicalization among Sweden's Muslims, warnings he started to broadcast a decade ago, now seem eerily prophetic in the light of Associated Press investigation that found Stockholm to be a breeding ground for jihadists among Swedish Somalis. According to the AP report, which first ran January 24th, an al-Qaeda-linked group is busy recruiting anti-government fighters among Somali youths living in Rinkeby. The suburb of Stockholm, Rinkeby has earned the nickname of Little Mogadishu because of the number of Somalis living there. Rinkeby is also the center of the recruiting efforts of Al-Shabaab, a group with ties to Al-Qaeda. Rinkeby is known as a problem area in Stockholm. It was here the NRK journalist Anders Magnus. Sorry, I just Windows 10 is freaking out.
Windows 10 for you.
Yeah. Let's see. Was attacked with stones last spring, and here the police never go in the evenings without reinforcements from other patrols, according to another name that I fucking can't pronounce. I'm not going to butcher all these names, but trying to pronounce. I don't speak Swedish. Sorry, and I don't speak Somali either. So, freelancer newspaper spoke to described the situation as serious. I've been in some turmoil, but this is something extra. It looks like a war zone here, he was quoted as saying. Freelance photographer Jane Atkinson had also been there at the site Monday and early Tuesday. Quote, they threw stones at police and the police fired warning shots. I got out when it was at its worst, he said to Dag Blade. Hope I pronounced that right. He added that there was many young youths with hoods and hats on. Jesus. Come on, you stupid Windows 10. I better cut out gun channels. I have a feeling whenever this starts freaking out, gun channel starts acting up. So I'm going to assume that's what it is.
So it's not just me.
It's not just you. Is your one day, I guess gun channels that his platform needs some kind of update because the last update kind of killed it.
When I got on Hangouts, I clicked off gun channels and I switched over to YouTube so I could read any comments. So if anybody's sending anything through gun channels, my concern is if I've got it, it'll kill the computer.
Yeah, me too. And if that happens, the chat will die. So, and you'll know why. So, now we've got an imploding chat. Let's see. Zero Hedge is spinning too. Police patrol on the site must have felt so constricted they were forced to fire warning shots and connected with the stoning. The police will then have withdrawn from the location. So here's like some pictures. 7 to 8 cars have been burned in the area. When we move back and forth, it never stands still at such incidents, but we have good resources in place, says Lars Bystrom. They had to call backup from other cities. I'm just looking at the comments underneath it. Some of them are racist, but are just. But some of them are just practical, like it's not working. The original indigenous Vikings would have a field day busting skulls and throwing the rendered bones of the invaders to the fjords. Odin would have heartily approved. Okay. Today, all we hear from are their unworthy descendants and are the squeaks of timid, brainwashed mice. The squeaks, I suppose. Timid, brainwashed mice. Well, some of these comments are just funny, but yeah, it was just really funny. The day before, everybody was criticizing Trump for saying about all the problems they're having in Sweden and how he was wrong, and he was saying something that wasn't true, and the next day there's a riot. All the immigrants riot just to prove his point. So, all right, let me see if I can get back on this chat before the Gun Channel crashes it. So, if you want to talk to us or make a comment, try and do it on the YouTube side, because on the Gun Channel side, there's still problems with since the last update that haven't been fixed. And at least I could read the comments on the YouTube side without crashing everything. So, so far I just see Squib, but over there. But if anybody else wants to type something on the YouTube side or any questions, let us know. All right. So I'm going to stop that screen share and move on to. Okay, we covered the riots. We did the Greek. We answered a question on 300 blackout that we really couldn't answer it completely. Hashtag CFOOS later. And what else? What were the other topics? I need to look at my own. Radiation over Europe. Yeah, I wanted to cover that one. So they have detected the U.S. flies regular patrols over Europe. And let me get to it. I forget what it's called, but they found elevated above the mean levels, average levels of iodine 131 particulates in the air. And so nobody knows if it's a test, if they blew up a bomb in the Arctic Circle. It seems like they attacked Windows 10 because it hasn't been working. Let me punch this up from. Okay. Clicking all the buttons. Here it is. Start screen share. Okay, detection of radioactive. So this is from the Institut de Radio Protection et Sûreté Nucléaire. That's French, and I'm sure I mispronounced it. The detection of radioactive iodine at trace levels in Europe. January 2017. Iodine, a radionucleoside of anthropogenic origin, has recently been detected in tiny amounts in the ground level atmosphere in Europe. Preliminary report states that it was first found during week 2 of January 2017 in northern Norway. Iodine 131 was also detected in Finland, Poland, Czech Republic, Germany, France, and Spain until the end of January. Iodine 131 is a radionucleoside with a short half-life of 8 days. The detection of this radionucleoside is proof of a rather recent release. So maybe somebody blew up a bomb or released something from a sub up in the Arctic, nuclear sub up there maybe. Besides, the iodine release, the origin of which is still unknown. The poor dispersion conditions due to thermal stratification of the atmosphere also affected the observed concentration levels, including those of naturally occurring radionucleosides such as lead-210. Okay. Must be pointed out that only particulate iodine was reported. When detectable gaseous iodine is usually dominant and can be estimated to 3 to 5 times higher than the fraction of the particulate iodine. Well, I'm not an expert, but here's the map, and they found this stuff all over Europe. I guess they didn't find any in England, so Ron Swanson's absence from Man the Fuck Up chats on Saturdays can't be excused for radiation. But anyway, wonder what's happening with him and all my friends in the UK. But so this is basically the U.S. runs a flight of airplanes to detect for these things in the atmosphere. I forgot what it's called. It's something Phoenix, Constant Phoenix, or something like that. Sure, I butchered that, but it's basically an atmospheric testing flight by the U.S. Air Force that they run over different parts of the world, including Europe, on a regular basis. So nobody knows why. I just want to say that, so this is the whole thing with Russia. You see this? This is St. Petersburg. If you can see where I'm pointing this clicker here, the mouse pointer, that is where their cold water port is, St. Petersburg. Ever since they built their navy, the Tsar, which Tsar did it? I forget. Sorry, but it was when they had wooden ships. And what happened was it gets cold up there, and the sea freezes, and so the ships can't get out. So ever since then, they've wanted warm water ports, because your navy's stuck in this little frozen ocean, then you're just shit out of luck, until the weather warms up. You just can't go anywhere, unless maybe underwater with a submarine. But so that's why they wanted, they always want their ports, and Syria has a couple of ports, and the Crimea has Sevastopol port in the Black Sea here. But they've always been after warm water ports, and they will pretty much do anything to get it. So, but I don't want to just hash on Russia, bash on Russia. They did lose their ambassador today. And they do have a lot of nuclear weapons. But as anybody now, I don't know if anybody besides me watched How the World Ends on America's Hero channel again, but they did cover nuclear Armageddon, going back to the 50s and bomb shelters and the current threats and what a nuclear war would be like, and gamma radiation and nuclear winter and they had some cool new strategies which were completely irrelevant. On how new ways that Russia could destroy the world with their nuclear arsenal. One of the most anti-Hawaiian ones was just exploding a big hydrogen bomb underwater, and then creating this gigantic bubble from the hydrogen bomb that would start a tsunami and just wipe out every coastal town in the Pacific. So California, Seattle, San Francisco, just these. They figured if they did that, there would be 100 foot waves, tsunamis, just from the underwater nuclear bomb that would, obviously wipe out Hawaii. So I think 100-foot wave might make it like right up to the bottom of my condo. So, but since I live on the 3rd floor, I'd be okay. Except for obviously, the whole world would be fucked if somebody started nuclear war. But it's like, why do they need to even do that? Because they have enough missiles to destroy the world, without, using any fancy techniques. The whole thing was Putin. The whole thing, they did make a point about, and I talked about it 6 months ago, is when Putin had his military meeting, and they intentionally leaked a photograph of their nuclear torpedo, which is like this big submarine-sized torpedo that they could launch at a port and blow up a port, and it's like a torpedo instead of a missile. So, but considering how many intercontinental ballistic missiles they have, basically there's no, people were talking about, how to survive a nuclear blast, and people who had built bomb shelters, around the world and stuff. for like $100,000, or super advanced bomb shelters for the incredibly wealthy. Where like there's one that's as big as the Empire State Building except underground, and it costs like $100,000 to buy a membership to their bomb shelter. And somehow you have to get there in a nuclear emergency. So then the war won't be telegraphed in advance. But if there is one, but it would be so stupid to start a nuclear war of any kind. But it really reminded me that whole. It reminded me of something that I think I was gonna give away a Gun Channels patch if anybody can guess where this particular verse came from. But I don't know. It basically reminded me. I'm not gonna do it. I need to come up with a gun question, and I could, but it really reminded me of that song by The Fifth Dimension. Because when I was a kid, I had that album. The Age of Aquarius, which is kind of like, it looked like it was inspired by Nostradamus. But the lyrics to that song, considering it was released like in 1969 when the U.S. was in Vietnam, and that's when the Tet Offensive was. But anyway, that's where the radiation is, and I hope Trump can get along with Putin, because nobody can afford World War III, and I don't have 10 years of food stockpiled. I didn't make it to Costco yesterday, and I got some more canned soup and a few other things for my shit hits the fan stores, but food supplies. But I know Foose actually said he had like 6 months worth of food, and I do not have 6 months worth of food. I think I might have. I know I could get by for a month on just what I have here, maybe 2. If I stretch it. Oh yeah, I bought a bunch of protein bars. Kirkland has a deal on their Kirkland, Costco protein bars. So picked up a box of them and some beef jerky. So it's about as ready as I'm gonna get until I get my gas mask. So that I can't imagine any way to survive a nuclear war. I mean, if you're in the blast zone or in the gamma radiation zone, you just instantly turned into carbon. So and that seems to be the easiest way to die, because you don't even realize it. There's if the radioactive particles rain down on you after the blast from the atmosphere, you'll die slow and painfully. So and especially if you breathe them in. But looks like we lost Dusty. Hopefully he'll make it back. All right. Anything else?
Now I see why you were looking at that house on stilts for the big wave coming in after the blast.
Well, yeah, but why? I mean, why would they do that underwater just to take? I mean, because they could just launch their missiles. They got enough missiles to destroy the whole fucking planet. With nukes on them. I mean, why just? I mean, it'd be a scientifically creative way to wipe out a bunch of cities. The other dangerous one was what if the Russians nuked the super volcano at Yellowstone? That would and caused an eruption, with a big enough explosion. I mean, but that would fuck up the whole world, because all if that volcano went up, then there would be a winter for God knows how long. It would be a volcanic winter. At not in addition to the nuclear winter, it'd be like all the dust, all the volcanic debris thrown up into the atmosphere. I mean, could be even longer than 10 years before the sunlight got through the ionosphere. But there's no good scenarios if so many people start using nuclear weapons. I mean, really. I will be getting a gas mask soon. Welcome back, Dusty. Your computer crash, or did your beer? You spilled beer on your computer, right? We had a really good after conversation about beer. Oh, it dropped out again. Basically, you have to drink beer right away because it goes bad. So you can't stockpile beer for the apocalypse. You have to drink it right away.
Yeah, the beer is something you'd have to use up quickly, but you can stockpile hard liquor and wine if you store it properly.
Well, even wine has an expiration date, but it's a little longer than beer. I mean,
I've had old wine; it tastes fine.
Yeah, well, I'm not a connoisseur, but yeah, I've had old wine too that tastes fine. But I guess some types last longer than others, depending on how they're made. I don't know. Dusty keeps popping in and out, so I'm gonna assume it's either connection or computer.
They got him.
They got him.
They got him.
It's because he was trading grain futures for his grain.
The proverbial they.
Yeah, and so I don't know what they're going to talk about next week on the American Heroes channels of how the world ends, but yeah, the nuclear apocalypse doesn't look fun. So,
yeah, but if you live someplace remote, obviously not where you're at, you're trapped, dude.
I'm not trapped. I'm out of the. Somebody said on one of some channels, because I had been looking at some a Russian video. I'll probably try and link it of the Russian special forces in Syria. Shooting it out with some ISIS dudes. And they had all their optics. So I had asked them about the optics, and somebody said, well, somebody is saying, well, we can shoot our Mach 5 missiles at you, and you won't even know what happened. And I was like, you want to waste a missile, your expensive missile on the Big Island? We have one military base here, and they just send mortar crews. It's a target range, and that's it. There's nothing here. I mean, I picked this island after China threatened to nuke Los Angeles because there's nothing here. It's the
but you're downwind from Oahu, right?
Nope. We're upwind.
Oh, you're upwind. Oh, well, okay, then you're good. Yeah, you just need the house with stilts and a water tank. So there you go.
And a gas mask.
and like, hey, I've got this house. I've got this catchment system. I've got a water tank. I'm away from the shore. I'm good to go. I'm upwind. Crap. I forgot my gas mask. Yeah.
I know people keep sending me links for gas masks, and I have to buy one. But give me a break. I just bought silver last week, so I didn't buy much. But I'll get a gas mask really soon. The way the world is going, I don't know. Looks like I might need one.
Yeah, I was looking at after you talked about them. I was looking at the ones that they issued us when I was in. They went from the old style that they had in the 70s and 80s to this new style. They've changed it since then. They've already upgraded. I mean, I've been out a long time, but they've already upgraded it. But to even get new old stock on the style that was the new and improved when I was in is still an arm and a leg. Now, you can get an inexpensive imported one. You can get a European one or Israeli one, or they've got some commercial ones.
But they all use the same filter, a NATO 40 millimeter filter. Most of them.
Okay, that I didn't know. I was wondering about that.
Now, I've seen some Czech filters on some inexpensive websites for like $13. But those are 10 millimeter, the Czech ones. All the NATO ones are 40 millimeters.
This is what I can tell you about gas masks. Be clean shaven, because it won't make a good seal if you have growth on your face. But once you seal it, it's supposed to, well, at least the military ones. I don't know about the civilian ones, but the ones we had, you were supposed to, if you were clean shaven when you sealed it to your face, you could grow up to 30 days of beard before it would break the seal, supposedly. But if you broke the seal and you had stubble or whatever, then you couldn't seal it completely. The other thing is, some people don't like the hoods. I like the hoods because they protect your neck from any sort of chemicals, but it doesn't seal up tight. It's just like it's something that's splashed on you.
So here's the thing: in a nuclear situation, fallout situation, what happens is there's an explosion. You don't die in the initial blast, and the wind is blowing you in your direction. The heavy particles rain down first and quickly, but those aren't the problem. It's the lighter, smaller particles that rain down slowly and for quite some time, and they're smaller, so they float down slowly, but they're just as deadly as the bigger particles. The bigger particles will land on the ground, and so I guess you need lead shoes or something. But But
No,
it's,
I'm not entirely sure that the gas mask is really going to be that big of a help in the event that you're dealing with fallout. However, if you're dealing with a riot situation afterward and they're using tear gas, you're going to want that gas mask. And if you've got the hood on the gas mask, that's going to protect your neck from chemical burns and stuff like that. I don't know that they're rated for nuclear. They will.
well, they are. I mean, if it keeps the dust out.
When you do your NBC training, your nuclear biological chemical training, but they told us it wasn't rated for everything. Now, like I said, this was old gas mask a long time ago. I don't know what some of the newer stuff. But in a situation where you don't know what's in the air, or if you've got to go downtown to Loot to get yourself some more beer, and you're worried that they've got people down there shooting tear gas, that the gas mask will protect you from tear gas, because you do not want to get hit with that stuff.
Yeah, and especially if you have a heart problem or something. So, but I just wanted to say exactly what the problem was, not whether I'm not an expert enough on masks to know what, if every 40 millimeter NATO filter is the same. But I did want to explain what the problem was. It's first you have the fallout would be heavy radioactive fallout would fall down quickly, and then for maybe days or weeks there would be lighter stuff falling down from the stratosphere, just light particles of radiation. So you would need a mask not to breathe that shit in. And, if you're, people spend lots of money when they build bomb shelters on air filtration systems, but obviously most people listening to this chat are not going to build, spend $100,000 to build a concrete shelter with air filtration. But a lot of people might go out and spend, $100 on a gas mask or something. So I just want to explain what the problem was, even though we don't necessarily know the solution.
Make sure your gas mask comes with a spare filter and replacement lenses. You wear a set of lenses over your lenses, so if they get scratched or damaged, you pop them off and you still have something, and then you pop replacement ones over those, so you don't get the originals messed up.
What kind of life does the filters have? I mean, is it hours or days or weeks?
You know what? I don't remember. They did show us that, because I went to the gas chamber one time too many, I think.
That sounds bad.
Well, no, it's kind of like this. We were so busy fixing helicopters all the time, right? So they're like, all right, you've got to either send your guys to the rifle range, the gas chamber, or the swim quals. Swim quals is a week, rifle range is a week, gas chamber is half a day. Guess what we did? Gas chamber. A lot, because they needed us there fixing helicopters. We didn't have time for that other crap. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is,
Next time, don't panic, buy silver and get yourself a gas mask, and then you'll have another toy to play with.
Well, I mean, if I take it out and use the filter up before I actually need it, then I guess I'll have to practice with it once, but
your spare filter should be hermetically sealed in a bag, so it should be. Or it should have some sort of seal that you break that before you screw it on or something like that to protect it. So you can store it on the shelf, should be able to. I just can't remember if they were good for like a day and a half, a week, 2 days. What I just can't remember.
Well, we've got VOG here, anyway, so I could just use it walking around. People might look at me funny, but the volcanic gases are real. Around.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any sort of law about wearing a mask in public and
no.
Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I decided to go driving with my gas mask on one day just to see how hard it was to drive with one on. I didn't have any problems, but I'm glad I didn't get stopped by a cop, because he would be going, "What in the hell are you doing, boy?"
I don't think they have a law against wearing them, but I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I mean, fuck.
They used to make us do all kinds of stuff, and again, we'd have to do like calisthenics, or we would have to we do a lot of shooting with them on, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, they say the lenses don't fog up. They fog up.
Yeah, and they have replacement lenses too. So anyway, we covered gun confiscation, Sweden riots, radiation over Europe, Greek bank run, and now we're on to gas masks. So just a normal fucking day. and also we covered nuclear tidal waves.
And we've had a few computer problems, right, Dusty?
Yes.
So on the beer thing, what is we need to know just for our viewers, because I know all of my viewers drink beer. So what is the maximum amount of time that you can wait to drink an IPA? How long can you can be in a bottle before it goes bad?
I would not go over 3 months. The fresher's the better. But
Okay,
3 months is pushing.
So we have no idea how long your gas mask filter is good for, but beer, 3 months.
You know what? I was cleaning out a closet at work.
We're god awful preppers.
And there was about a 5 or 7 year old case of Budweiser in there. I called Budweiser and I said, "Hey, this beer is 5 or 7 years old." I gave them the manufacturer date and the serial number and all that stuff that's on the outside of the. And I said, "Is this stuff okay to drink?" And they said, "It's not poisonous, but it's going to taste like wet cardboard. You're not going to like it." And they said, "We don't recommend you drink it. We recommend that you sell it to a collector." I said, "Come again?" We've got a list of people all over the United States that collect old beer cans that have not been opened, especially if they're still in the cardboard case. And I mean, this thing had been in a dusty old closet for years, and they were like, "Clean up the mess." And I dug through all this stuff, and underneath was this case of beer. And they gave me the names of a few people in the area that I could get a hold of that collected this stuff. But they were too far to drive to, so I just pitched it. But they said it's not poisonous to drink, but it's going to taste like wet cardboard. So that's from Anheuser-Busch. So I don't know.
Well, and that's the same thing on what I was telling Hawaii. It's not that beer is ever going to go bad. You could sell her a beer for 4 or 5 years if you wanted. But an IPA with the hops in it, after 3 months, the hops are going to fade out of that beer, and you're not going to taste the hops anymore. You're just going to have a malt. So basically, you'll just be drinking the grains.
Well, I got to tell you, I had some champagne for New Year's that was Chateau. It was Dom Perignon from 2005, and it tasted great. But I'm not a champagne connoisseur or anything, and I basically just made a lot of champagne cocktails with it because I was just happy to be alive this year because I almost didn't make it through last year. But I got lucky this year, so I felt like celebrating. So anyway, champagne is good. It seems to last. I don't know if it's just the carbonation or whatever, but
it gets better over time. And there is beers that get like some of your heavy stouts. The longer you called a Bourbon County stout, pour it a year before I drink it. So, some types of beers are better to age, but there's some beers that you want to drink fresh. And an IPA is a style you want to drink fresh.
Yeah, and they're a popular style because they have a little more alcohol kick to them. So I know those are getting real popular around lately. And so
part of your craft beer.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do we need to talk about next? Because I think we killed prepping.
I checked in the on the Gun Channel's chat, and Dead Horse answered the question on the 300 blackout.
Oh, great, Dead Horse! Thank you.
He did it a while ago. I decided to log back in and take a chance that it wouldn't crash a computer.
Yeah, I hope the next Gun Channel's update fixes that problem because it's like basically the error I get is Facebook, non-responsive script errors, and it just I have to the only thing I can do is open my CC Cleaner program and just wipe everything out, and it takes and that can take like over an hour sometimes depending on how much stuff there was in the browser, so and of course I have it set to clean 35, times, right over 35 times, but it doesn't exactly speed it up. But but that's the only way I can close the fucking browser because it just freezes up, So I don't know. I hope whatever the update is gets fixed soon. But I know it's not GWeb's fault, but it's just whatever the system update for because he pays money, to keep Gun Channels up. So and he has to pay that software to keep the platform up. So whoever writes it seemed to mess up somehow. At least everybody that I've talked to has problems.
minutes ago, I ended up just doing a hard boot and rebooting
Yeah.
my computer.
Yeah, sometimes if I just get out of Google Chrome and come back in, it'll be fine. Other times I have to reboot. Yeah. Let's see. Rupan is answering both on YouTube and gun channels about he believes a filter lasts approximately 24 hours in an NBC situation, but he thinks you have 15 minutes in a chlorine gas situation. And then he's talking about wiping your face with what he calls charcoal. I was asking him, you mean NBC wipes? And he said, we just call them charcoal. So I believe he's talking about cleaning off any chemicals before you seal that mask to your face, because if you do that, you're going to seal the chemicals to your face.
Yeah, I believe Sergeant Badass from Step 1 Survival had an actual video about this. I have to go back and look at it again. Yeah. This gas mask stuff is going to get me, because I had it all solved before. Because on Edge's chat, he had somebody that works in the building. He's he works in the the pipeline technology, building pipelines in Canada, and he was on one of Edge's chat, and we talked about this for like an hour in the after chat. And it's like because he does the welding, he's a welder, welding pipelines together. He has to have specific masks that can handle all that. So we went through like there's some companies that just make gas masks, but they weren't military style. They were professional civilian type of stuff, and they might work in an NBC. I don't know. But they look, they had the kind where you could put oxygen on it, and the firefighters use, and they have specific drills they have to practice. But I'm gonna have to go all into this again. We're gonna need to do like 10 more shows on gas masks after I get one, so I don't accidentally screw it up.
So that
That's
fallout
a lot of
lasts
material.
for weeks.
Yeah.
The fallout lasts for weeks, though, doesn't it?
The heavy particles come down right away, but the small ones could be up in the stratosphere for weeks and slowly come down over time.
You still have to deal
So
with.
you're going to need more one spare filter then.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you're trying not to breathe in these fine particles if you're out and about walking around. The thing is, these large particles are on the ground; they're radiating everything they touch. You're walking through a hot zone, even if you don't have particles raining down on you. Now, how long that stuff takes to dissipate? Years? I don't know. I mean, I know that stuff's got half-lives of 1,000,000 years or something, but it doesn't take 1,000,000 years for the radiation to dissipate to safe levels. But who knows? I mean, it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, it could be. I mean. Yeah,
and if it rains and it all gets washed into the ocean, then the ocean's big. I mean, you just have Fukushima problems. But and then that there was some more fake news about Fukushima because people were putting up like some title. People had put up on YouTube like a tidal wave map from like the Pacific Tsunami Center about the earthquake, and they were saying that was a radiation chart of where the radiation traveled, and it wasn't. So it was just a wave of the earthquake tidal wave. It didn't have anything to do with it. It looked red like radiation, but it was really just a map of where the tsunami traveled, where the wave power traveled after the earthquake in Fukushima, the start of the whole fucking problem. And I mean, unless you say the problem was obviously building it there in the first place, which it was. But anyway, we can't fix Japanese nuclear power plants in the past. But it was just that. So there's fake news about everything out there. So I try and get it all right on my channel, but I apologize if there's anything wrong. Send me a message or post a comment that says you're wrong. But anyway, what else? Is there anything else we need to cover?
But even that, if it was the vegetation and ants and trees and stuff to produce pure oxygen. So if the radiation kills all the vegetation around and you're not making any new oxygen, what's the point?
Yeah, and the plants won't grow if they just throw up. Forget the radiation. If there's enough nuclear blast to throw up just enough regular particles, like if Russia nukes the super volcano in Yellowstone, just the debris from a super volcano exploding and throwing the pyroplasty up into the stratosphere, no UV radiation will get through. And there won't be any more photosynthesis on the planet, or it'll take out some part of. There's another thing that could happen. It's like it screws up it screws up the ozone. If the nuclear war destroys the ozone in the stratosphere, then all the UV radiation will get through unfiltered completely, and everything will just be fried on the planet, and nothing will grow. So
wouldn't it be something if the Russians were so cheap, and because they're communists and they really don't have any incentive to do a good job or whatnot, instead of putting radioactive material in their warheads, they just stuck lead in there and nobody bothered to check because, where's the incentive? And it's like, yeah, whatever, and some of their stuff blew up, but some of their stuff didn't because they were all duds. I mean, that's a far-fetched theory, but it's about as likely as there is that we get nuked. I mean, I hope it never happens, but the survival rates are going to be real small. It's going to be the people that have got the bunkers and got the supply stuff, and those are the people that are wealthy and they're trying to protect their stuff. I mean, it's kind of like trying to take low risk investments in the stock market or something like that. These people got lots of money and they want their families to survive and stuff like that, and they're the ones that have the remote locations with the underground bunkers with the filtration and the water and the rest of us, we got to make do with what we can afford or what we can hope for. But yeah, I mean, I
just hope they don't nuke the Big Island because there's nothing here. So don't nuke us, nuke somebody else.
Well, yeah, it's a bigger target, but really they're going to go after the military targets first.
Yeah, well, that's Guam. That's Guam. I mean, so
Guam's little though. It's not one big military base.
Yeah, but that's where all the strategic bombers are. So wait, there's a knock on my door. Here come the FBI. So
Guam, they stopped there for gas and for a potty break.
Well, Anderson Air Force Base. Mess with them. Leave Kona alone.
Isn't Anderson where we lost our only B-2 bomber? Isn't that where the guy had that accident on takeoff?
I don't know where. I thought that was over on the mainland, but I don't know.
On the mainland, we lost one B-2 because the guy screwed up on takeoff.
I don't think it was that anybody screwed up. I think it was. I read about that. It wasn't pilot error. It was like a computer glitch.
With the automatic flight control system, because the flying wing is unstable. The reason the flying wing that Northrop developed at the end of World War II did not work was because they would purposely try to put it into a stall and then recover, and they couldn't recover. And that's something that you've got to be able to do with an aircraft in case you have a problem. And it was years later when they made the stealth bomber that they had the computer systems that can adjust the aircraft's controls in a way that a human pilot can't do it. And they call it an automatic flight control system. And it was able to compensate for all of the instabilities that a flying wing generates. And it was able to do stuff that they didn't have the technology to do in the 50s. The thing about the flying wing was when they developed it in the late 40s and early 50s, I think, or it was all late 40s, they weren't developing it for stealth at all. They were developing it because they said if there's no fuselage in the center or very little fuselage in the center, it's all wing, then it's all lift. No drag, it's all lift and no drag. That gives us range, and that's what they were trying to do, is they were trying to get enough range to fly from the United States to Russia and back and bring the aircrew back and bring the aircraft back to reuse and drop nuclear bombs. And it was the Northrop Flying Wing versus the Convair B-36 Peacemaker. Well, the Flying Wing lost out because they had too many accidents with it, and the Peacemaker won. But later, when they were able to get computer systems that were able to adjust the flight controls just right in a way people couldn't do, they were able to make the stealth bomber. But they found out They found out during the testing of some of this stuff that, hey, this thing's got a low radar cross signature. But that was never the original intention of it. It was simply about saving fuel, because back then, in-flight refueling was just an experiment. It wasn't a regular everyday thing.
Speaking of experiments, I wanted to talk about the one Russian World War II weapon that did not work.
Ooh, okay.
Probably nobody knows what it is, and I can't go on gun channels to do a quiz, but okay, it was the dog anti-tank bomb.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, so basically they had these little vests that the dog would wear with explosives, and there was this wood paddle that would go up, and when the dog crawled under the tank, and the enemy tank, in theory, that the tank pushed down the paddle, which would set off the explosives. And the only problem was that they trained the dogs to, for training. Obviously, you have to practice so they know do what you want them to do. They trained their dogs to go under a tank, to crawl under a tank when they saw it. So dogs live in a world of smell, and the problem was that the olfactory part of their brain is like 90% of their brain. It's that's how they do everything, is by sense of smell. So Russian tanks that the dogs trained under were diesel. The German tanks were gasoline.
Right,
So,
correct.
So the first time they use it, they set out the dog to go blow up a German tank, and it goes right into a Russian tank because it was diesel, and that's what it had trained under. If it smelled like gasoline, it wasn't a tank. So they blew up their own tank with their own dog. That's what you get for being fucking mean to dogs.
Now, see, I knew that they did that, but I didn't know it was because of the smell of the fuel. But that totally makes sense, because and that was one of the things I always thought. It's like, damn, why didn't the Germans have diesel tanks? Why'd they have the gasoline engines? They could get more horsepower and all this other stuff. But I think they were having some sort of supply issues, or I can't remember what it was, why the Germans went with gas engines. But yeah, if the Russian dogs trained around diesel, and they're getting a reward for going under, yeah. But yeah, I knew that had happened, and it backfired on them. But they still overwhelmed the Germans because they were able to get those T-34s. They crank them out like crazy. The Germans could not create the highly sophisticated tanks that they had in large enough numbers to defeat the mass-produced Russian. And if you think about it, that developed the Russian doctrine from there on out. It was conscript soldiers, cheap, easily mass-produced weapon systems, and will overwhelm them with sheer volume, not technology. And what did we take on after the war? We took on the German doctrine of less weapons but more sophisticated weapons. Only thing is, we did it right. So,
well, the anti-tank dog bombs didn't work, and it served the Russians right, for being mean to dogs. I mean, that's just mean.
Now,
but
don't forget,
I understand. Let me finish.
Never came back.
I understand World War II was hell. I mean, my grandfather blew up. I have to fight the damn Nazis with the Russians in the Second Polish Corps on the Eastern Front, and he was a sapper, and he had to blow up tanks. And so, I understand. I'm not hacking on Russia. I'll let somebody else do that. There's plenty of people who want to hack on Russia. But just wanted to say the dog bomb didn't work. It's the whole point. But so not everything that's Russian is like the AK-47 or anything. But there was a video and that I had commented on. I'm going to try and find it really quick before we end this chat. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly, since we were on expiration date, is that I don't know how long it's good for or what the system is like, but bleach, if you're going to use bleach to purify water, that has a limited it'll just become inert after a certain amount of time, and you won't be able to purify your water if you're planning on using a few drops of bleach to kill any bugs in your water. All right, let me try and find this video. Oh, no, this must be at the bottom here. Anybody out there?
What's that?
Oh, okay. I just want to know if everything crashed while I was looking for this video of the Russian special forces um, in Syria. Because basically, I had asked, are those all American optics or Russian knockoffs of American optics? And it kind of started an argument. I'm trying to find the video. Russian special forces in Syria. All right, let me open this in a new window, and then I'll screen share it.
Are the pictures, are they good? I mean, can you tell?
Yeah, the pictures seem to be okay. Obviously, you won't hear the audio, which is just Russian voiceover of a talking some kind of propaganda or news. It's a news broadcaster. So let me hit the screen share button, and then I'll make it like full size. Hopefully, you guys can you see this?
Yeah, I can.
All right, so I'll make this full screen so you get to see it a little better, maybe. But my question was on the optics and the helmet. Somebody said at 2 minutes in, they're wearing American-made helmets. But
where is this? This Syria? Yeah, that looks like Syria. Like somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's them. So us look at the helmets and the optics and see if if the Russians are using American optics or not. And like that, are those American helmets? So take your time. It's a long video. So these are Russian special forces.
I'm going to switch it to YouTube and where I can pause it. So there's a bit of a lag. I'm trying to see not just the optics, but any of the other equipment.
I'll give you the link after the chat is over off the air, and you can get back to me next week if we can't figure it out right now.
Just looking at it, the camo pattern doesn't look like ours.
Right, I imagine they have their own camo pattern. Russian have their own, but I was really interested in the optics, and so there's a bunch of video.
What I meant was if they were footage of American troops and they just dubbed it in. I've seen that crap before.
No, these are. I'm pretty sure this is Russian TV with Russian troops, except for the dead guys, which are ISIS, I assume. So yeah, this is some Russian TV thing, and so it's good that you can't hear the audio. So is that helmet there an American Peltor helmet? There's some optics. Okay, is that an A-point or a knockoff? Is that Neotech or a knockoff?
I'm on YouTube, so there's a bit of a delay. Yeah, I can't tell.
Okay, well.
Okay, no, I see what you're talking about on the helmets.
Well, I'll just shut up and let you analyze.
You got to remember the ground pounders had this stuff. We didn't have this stuff in the air wing, but what if they got our stuff because it's maybe cheap to buy surplus?
Well, some of this stuff is ITAR. They're not allowed to export it, but that doesn't mean they couldn't get around around it.
Somebody have a conspiracy theory that Trump gave it to the Russians. Whatever. I could see them reverse engineering it and copying it. They've done that with so much of our equipment.
Somebody on this was animated that Russians have their own, optic companies, and he lived in the town where they make some of these, but some people are American guys in the comments were equally animated that no, those were Peltor helmets. You could see the stickers, and those were American optics, and they just got around the ITAR somehow.
Yeah, I can't tell, but some of that stuff, it sure does look pretty close. For just with my limited knowledge, and I'm not going to claim to be an optics expert.
Anyway, geez, there's a.
Yeah, Rupan's coming in on Gun Channel says could be a China knockoff. That's plausible as well.
I can't see
I mean,
Russian special forces using Chinese optics, but
look at the. Did you see the collapsible stock he had? I mean, that wasn't a Russian stock. You see that by his left hand? That's,
yeah.
Yeah. That looks like a Magpul. Yeah, maybe it is Chinese knockoffs.
Okay, now obviously I don't think that's Syria. That's them talking to people in Russia because there's snow. And I don't think there's that much snow in Syria. I don't know, but I don't think there's any snow right now.
And they've got some armored vehicle with looks like wire-guided missiles on it. Is it remote controlled?
Looks like that's some robot thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but that looks like wire-guided missiles on the top there. Looked like it had a machine gun or a cannon on it too.
Yeah, I just was interested in what optics the Russian special forces were interested in, and some people in the comments wanted to argue about, just
what if they wanted better optics? They wanted American optics, and they either found a way to get them commercially, or they copied them, or the Chinese copied them.
Well, I was trying to figure out what they were using, is all, and I was trying to be polite and not start an argument, but people were coming on and arguing because it's Russians versus Americans, so. But I was just trying to get at what they were using because I was interested, what they were using.
The reason is they want the good stuff, and we've got the good stuff.
Well, they do have one of the Russian guys on there. He says he lives in the town where the company makes optics, and he gave me a link to the company that makes Russian optics, and I'll give you the link after this chat is over. Maybe you can. It'll be fun for you to go look at the Russian optic company, but this was fun. I like watching this video. I mean, it's better without the Russian guy commenting in Russian since I don't speak Russian, and I imagine they're just obviously putting their spin on what they're doing.
I know they copied a lot of our aviation stuff, so.
But I was just interested. I was truly just interested, honestly, what optics are they using? That's all, And so I was trying to be, nice. It's a Russian channel. It's a Russian YouTube channel. So I didn't want to go on there and start talking shit about Putin. I don't like Putin, but it's like it's not my channel, so it's a Russian channel. So I'll just ask what optics are they using because that's all I was interested in.
Yeah, if I ever have any Russian optics, it'll be classic stuff for collecting purposes.
Yeah. So I was wondering if they were Russian knockoffs, and so there's a link in the comments to a Russian optic company that were in the city where the guy who made the comment lives. So he says, I live in the town where they make the optics, So, but I thought it was interesting in just seeing what Russian special forces were using. Because this is Gun Channels. We do broadcast this lock and load chat on Gun Channels. And that's one thing Gun Channels doesn't have for they don't have any Russian flag stuff, stickers.
Well, Dead Horse is saying it snowed in Syria last Christmas, and Rupan is saying it looks like the real stuff. I was blown away by the knockoff EOTechs from China. So who the heck knows? I mean, it's plausible.
All right, I'll put out the link to you guys when I get back on Gun Channels. If you hang out to the end of the chat for this, and I'll try and find the link to the that Russian optics company because people might be interested in it for just to see what the Russian optics company makes. So I guess they're interviewing the commander of this. One of these special forces units, and they're talking about tier 1, whatever their military names are for these units in Russia, the top special forces guys. So I thought it was just interesting what they were using, compared to what Americans use, or what us guys on Gun Channels have for that matter. Anyway, let me get this link first to the video. Copy. Stop the screen share. You put it in the internal. If anybody can throw it into the gun channels, here's the YouTube link, and let me get the link from the Russian optics company. Find it really quick. And also, we're going to have to find out a source. So we're going to have to source NBCs. Then that's obviously nuclear biological chem wipes or something. Because I've never even heard of those, and I don't have any. So I'll have to find out where to get them and what they are.
And NBC means nuclear biological chemical. It's just referring to the type of unconventional warfare that comes from using anything from tear gas to a nuclear weapon. It's just unconventional. So they lumped it all together like a catch-all type thing. So the same guys that issue gas masks also train you to bend over and kiss your ass goodbye if a nuke comes down.
Right. Well, if those of us that don't want to bend over and kiss our ass goodbye, or have a family that don't want to bend over, they got to look out for us. We might want to have a gas mask and some wipes. So.
What's great is if you work in NBC in the military, you really don't do a whole lot all day. You set up the gas chamber and you issue gas masks and you do some paperwork and you work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. But then when you go to pick up chicks at the bar, you can go, I'm in nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, and they're all impressed.
All right, let's see. Trying to find this link to the fucking. Oh, it was probably in the comment that I made, and then you got 14 thumbs up, and then because I was just asking a polite question, and then people started arguing. So let's see.
Look what you've done.
Yeah. Holographic versus iron sights, which was the fucking point. Oh, here it is. Schwabe Company. Developed and produced by Zenit. You ever heard of Zenit?
We got a Russian engineer at my place whose name is that. Zenit.
It sounds suspiciously like Zenith, but let me put this link in here. Fucking Windows 10, I hate it.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with Windows 8. I was fine with it.
Okay.
A lot of people like Windows 7.
Can when you guys copy that link that I just put into the gun channels so people
yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So and yeah, let's have a look at that, and maybe next week we'll have some answers on what they were using. I'll try and get on gun channels after I close out the chat, so I can put these links up for people so they can watch them themselves. And I don't want to crash the chat by going on gun channels and having those Facebook non-responsive script errors come up.
I do want to thank you for putting the English link in here. Yeah, thank you.
What English link?
If I did it right, they're in the chat now. So
there's an option of English or Russian. You gave the English one, so thank you.
Oh, for the YouTube video?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of comments that are in Russian. I could not understand them. So, and I was like, what the fuck did you just say, man? I don't know but it's like, I don't, I know how to work in AK, but I don't speak Russian. But I guess you aren't supposed to have to speak Russian to know how to work in AK. It's the whole point.
As many militants around the world that use them, no, probably not. Dusty, you know any Russian?
No.
Das Vidanias, and the vodka. They say hit me again hit me again for vodka, and blackjack, I suppose. But I did pick up a bottle of wine. I didn't pick up any vodka when I was at Costco. They had some Scotland. They had. I looked and I was looking at gin, and they actually had this bottle of gin from Scotland, and it was like $90 for a little bottle. I thought, well, that looks interesting. It's from Scotland. And I was like, are you shitting me $90 for a little bottle when I could get perfectly good Costco vodka? You know,
It's
for
$90 because they have to ship it to Paradise.
we get the Costco vodka that for like, you know, $20 for like a ton of it. You know, so and it's just as good as Grey Goose. So why would I pay $90 for vodka from Scotland? I mean,
Well, yeah, but the Costco vodka they probably make in some parking lot on Oahu.
no, it's just as good as Grey Goose. I call this. It's the stuff that filtered 7 times. I think they call it 7 or
Oh, okay.
6 or something like that. You know, so it's premium vodka, but it's just cheaper because Costco does it.
Somebody told me they sell ammo cans at Costco.
They sell it at Walmart. They sell, but they smell really bad. I had to like wash them out. They sell like smaller ammo cans at Walmart. The Plano ones, I think they're called Plano.
Yeah, I've got some Planos. They got different sizes and different colors.
They smell terrible. God, I put like a ton of dish soap in there and I let it soak overnight. I have to wash it out like 10 times.
The ones you want have the rubber seal on the inside. There's a little groove for a gasket. Some of them don't have it. Pay the extra money for that rubber seal so you keep the moisture out.
Yeah, but they're really cheap, but they smell god awful. I mean, you know, when you open them, it's like, phew, shit.
Not like Cosmoline or anything.
No, they had seals on them, but the seals kept that terrible stench, and it smelled like something, you know, vile, some kind of vile, you know, thing from the plastic molding process. You know, I don't know what the hell it is. I hate those things. I bought a few of them because they were cheap, but fuck, those things suck. I'd rather pay more for the MTMs or, you know.
MTM makes good stuff.
That's what I have mostly.
I get the different sizes and the different colors, and even though I label them, the sizes and colors helps me quickly identify what I put in there.
Yeah, I need to, like, you know, get some state labels for my MTM cases because I got so many of them. It's getting fucking ridiculous. You know, every time I go to the gun shop, I need to buy more ammo cases, you know, cases, and I have some steel ones, you know, also, but it depends whether I buy those from the recycle place where they have a bunch of them because they picked up like a truckload of them from the Mill Serp on sale, and they sell them for too much. You know, and the gun
to sell them too much.
Yeah, but you know, whatever. Anyway, so okay, for next week we need to find some place to source those damn wipes, and it's just refresh my memory. You use those before you put on the gas mask.
Well, no, that's to clean off any chemicals you might have been exposed to before you put on. If you haven't been exposed to anything yet, you don't need them. But I don't know about any civilian issue ones or any of the foreign military ones. But the ones that we had, the M17 and the M42 that we had, they said you have to have a clean shave before you put them on. But we shaved every day anyhow, so I mean, I don't know.
Well, but what are the wipes for?
The wipes are if you have chemicals on you, if you get exposed to chemicals before you don and clear your mask. So you use the wipes to get the contaminants off, because that mask will seal it to your skin and it'll burn right through your skin or get absorbed in your bloodstream or whatnot.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so those might come in handy. You know, I think the whole thing on whether you survive a nuclear blast is if you're indoors. You know, it's true that if you're in even if you're just in the thermal zone and radiation isn't immediately falling, you know, your building might be on fire. You know, and the roof might, be burning down, and there won't be any way to put it out because the EMP will probably have taken out all the cell phones. But I mean, you know, and there won't be any fire response or anything because the whole town will be on fire, and they can't really put that out. So I don't know.
I mean, I suppose it depends on the accuracy of the nuclear weapon, how many warheads come down, that sort of thing. I mean, me and Smeggy were talking about this once because he's about 35, 45 minutes away from me. And if they nuked where I live, would it get to him? Maybe.
Oh, yeah, that was when you were talking about because you were living close to one of the military bases, I think. Yeah, I remember. An Air Force base.
Yeah, there's an Air National Guard base here that is joint. So it's got Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. It's got Reserve Air Force. It's the Army's there. All that, I mean, because we're on the Great Lakes, so the Coast Guard operates out of there and that sort of thing, and whatnot. So it's
So you're living in a
small.
nuclear target area. You're living in a blast zone. Yeah.
What's funny is they used to have B-52s at that base, and now the bunker that they used to come running out of when they would do a scramble alert is now the enlisted club. So it's kind of neat. They got the tunnels underneath and all that stuff, and they got the big hangars with the funny cutouts for the doors for the big tails on the B-52s and whatnot. And they don't fly B-52s out of there no more. But it used to be a Cold War base that they kept bombers at. And when 9/11 happened, some of the F-16s that went after Flight 93 came out of that Air National Guard base. So
yeah, I mean, Honolulu Airport has fighters. You see them parked when you land, but they have Raptors parked on Honolulu Airport.
Is that the Hawaii National or Air National Guard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't think people understand how important it is to have a National Guard and an Air National Guard, and the fact that the National Guard and Air National Guard do deploy. They might not deploy as much as the four main branches, but they actually do deploy overseas. The
National Guard in Hawaii deploys all the time. A lot of the guys that deploy to Afghanistan and places like that in the Middle East are in the National Guard. They're not in the Army.
Well, the National Guard, it's attached to the Army. Mostly, yeah. I think it's for logistics and organizational purposes. I mean, but some people give them a bad rep because they don't think they do anything, but they actually do.
Yeah, like all the air refueling flights are National Guard. Air National Guard. If you think you're going to join the Air National Guard and not be deployed, yes, again, you're going to be deployed.
Yeah, and without things like tankers, we would be in big trouble.
Yeah, America relies on a lot of technology, and that's kind of like like the first thing to go will be the satellites will get shot down, and then none of the GPS bombs will work, and it'll be a mess.
Hey, there's something to talk about on an upcoming show. Aren't we replacing the KC-135s with something new? The KC-135s and the KC-10s, aren't they getting replaced with something else?
I don't know. I was depressed about talking about airplanes because the Hawaii news channel was, this is Hawaii. Everybody, most of the people here are Democrats, so they were saying that Trump was full of shit when he was doing his Dreamliner build thing about how American airplanes, because most of the 30%, about a third of the parts for the Boeing Dreamliner are actually built overseas. Like the engines are sometimes a lot of the engines are for Britain. The fuselage is or the wings are from Japan, or the fuselage is from Japan, or the landing gear is from Australia. I don't know, but they went through all the different parts and what countries they were from, and I was like, oh fuck, more fake news. And I don't know if Trump was wrong or they were wrong, and it's like I'm just tired of watching the news anymore, so I don't know what's being replaced with what anymore.
Well, I thought the tanker fleet was getting replaced. I mean, I heard a lot of going back and forth on it and whatnot, but
I know they have to replace the subs, but boy, we're almost at 20 trillion in debt, and when we start replacing major military systems, we're gonna blow past 20 million so fast. 20 trillion, I mean, so fast. That clock is just gonna, I don't want us to wind up like Greece, where people are in the food lines and there's no food at the food basket for the people. Because it's bad in Greece. So in Athens, Athens is a major European capital. So it's just if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. And it's like, I don't know if the dominoes are going to fall, and but I don't know if I have enough silver or gold or whatever. I probably don't. But I'll put gas masks on my list. Gas masks. I got to deal with it already. I've been talking about it for like almost a year, and I haven't got one yet. But all right, so for next week, we will try and solve the Russian optics situation, and I want to thank Squib and Dusty, and I want to thank G-Webs for running gun channels, even though the software keeps crashing. I mean, I'm not on his gun channels as much anymore because of that, but I know it's not his fault. I mean, it's just whoever.
I think it'll get corrected eventually.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope it gets corrected faster than this like Google Talk thing, because Google Talk or the screen share doesn't work if I use Windows Edge. And anyway, fuck it. Thanks everybody for listening and coming in and checking out the chat.
Can I plug another gun channel show?
Go ahead and plug another gun channel show.
All right, everybody, catch Hit or Miss Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, he started his show on my chat. I think he was. Then he bailed on my chat because it conflicted with Matt's chat, and so he was on Matt's chat instead of my chat. I was like, oh well, fuck you. But
there are so many chats Monday night, but hey,
it used to be, yeah. Well, there didn't used to be when I was laid up for a while. I think I kind of got replaced a little bit or filled in because I couldn't do the chats when I was in the hospital, obviously, and then I came back after I got better, and now there's Monday nights, the busiest night, So
well, got to keep fighting the good fight, though.
Yeah, well, we're unique. I'll lock and load.
If you ever want to switch to Sunday nights, let me know.
No, that's the they do the reloading chat.
Boost hasn't done a chat in a while. At least not that I've heard.
No,
they
has it for months. We were talking about it last night. He's thinking about trying to start it back up again.
Because
he said it's been about.
I know he made a point of trying to have a reload chat like every other Sunday or something, but if they gave up, I don't know.
If I need reload info, I just go to him directly. But if he started up a chat again, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could stay up late Sunday and Monday night, but.
All right.
Yeah, I just listened to it. I just recorded and listened to it. But, yeah.
So Hit or Miss is on Tuesdays at what time?
At 9 Eastern. Now, if I get on the show tomorrow, but I don't know if I will be, but if I do, I'll mention Lock and Load because that is fair play. We got to help each other out. Right.
Well, mostly people quirk each other, which is a gun channel thing. But anyway.
I've got an in, though. I met Smeggy yesterday.
Oh, you did? Cool.
Maggie yesterday at the gun show. Yep. So,
what gun show?
Was the gun show?
You know what? I hadn't gone to a gun show that wasn't antique firearms in a while, so it was kind of it was really packed with people, and there was a lot to see there.
What was the name of it?
It was the Novi Gun Show. It's Novi is west of Detroit, and there's a big convention center there, and it's sponsored by a big group of car dealerships. So it's called the Suburban Collection after a big group of car dealerships. It's changed names a couple times, like a sporting arena, and they do different gun shows out of there. Normally, I go there for the Antique Arms Show. So it's usually owner-to-owner sales. You got all these old guys with their collections, and they're trying to unload them.
I saw that picture you posted in the on gun channels with it. It looked like the Woodstocks looked in pretty good condition.
Yeah, the guy told me that was a Russian SKS, so it was a used SKS, obviously, a used Mini 14. But what got me was in the morning. I do the Sunday morning. I listen to Matt's Chat Sunday morning with coffee, and I have coffee. My wife calls it. Are you having coffee with Al again? Yeah, honey, I'm having coffee with Al. So I listened to Matt's Sunday morning coffee chat, and he was talking about, choice between SKS and a Mini 14. Absolutely, get the SKS. Why? Because the SKS is cheaper. It does the same job, but it's cheaper, and blah, 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 blah. And here I had proof of an SKS and a Mini 14 side by side, both $600. So...
I've seen SKSs for cheaper, but the reason I usually avoid milsurp stuff is just because the wood is usually in such shitty condition, and I know it'll take me 6 months to recondition it to do a decent job of layer after layer of dot rit dye with mixed with vodka and acetone and semi gloss, and sanding it down with and then curing it, waiting it for dry, and doing a billion coats or whatever. It just takes forever.
It does, and Matt did bring that up Sunday morning too about having to spend all this time and money to refinish a wood stock, on a cheap gun or something like that. I can't remember specifically what he said, but it's along the same lines of what you're talking about. Yeah. And I saw an Arasaka there that I was interested in buying until I looked at the stock, and the stock is what made me put it down and walk away. I mean,
I will say that it's you have to do it once to know how difficult it is. And you might wind up in the end with something, and you'll be glad that you did all that work, but it's a lot of work.
I don't know, man. I think I might take mine up to Williams Gun Shop and just leave the stock with a gunsmith and just say, just fix it. Because I'm not very good with that carpentry type stuff. I mean, I know it's just staining wood, but I'm not.
Staining wood and wetting it cure, and then sanding it down with quadruple odd steel wool. Yeah, it's just. And then, I leave it outside in the sun, and then I put it by the air conditioner to dehumidify it and suck all the moisture, and then I put it back out in the sun. And then, you wait 6 weeks, and then it's finally hard enough to sand it down, and then you do it all over again. It's like, no, thank you. I don't want my lanai turned into a woodstock drying station for,
But what about just
6
buying
months.
another stock? Just buying another stock outright.
Find one that fits, right? I mean,
okay, yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's just I'd be happier with a new gun. Besides, who wants like a barrel that's been sitting around and it's probably pitted and stuff, But
I like milsurps. I like the history.
Well, yeah, the history is fine, but if you want a gun that works and looks cool, then and looks great, then it's just a lot of work, So, and I don't. Maybe if I had a big house with a huge workshop area, then it might be fun. But I don't.
Which you could. You were looking. You could one day.
One day I'm going to have my jungle survivalist compound with guard towers, a radio tower, and a helicopter pad. But
that would be cool. That would be cool. At that point, you will get a couple milsurps in. At that point, it'll be.
I'll be more interested in making sure everybody on my squad has night vision, and we'll practice night vision, in the jungle, and try not to trip over each other.
You're not going to go cheap and just hand everybody a Mosin and a gun and go, here you go.
No, I'll hand them like a 22 Ruger and say, okay, you're in the fucking army now. So everybody will quit, or maybe I'll just hand them a knife.
They did have some knives there. They did have some knives. They did have some reloading supplies. They had some holsters, a lot of parts. This is something I hadn't seen at a conventional gun show in a while, were parts. I mean, not just AR and AK parts, but all kinds of parts.
Are all the cool knives legal in your state?
Dusty, you know anything about any size limitations or anything? Because I don't think there.
Falls in our CCW permit, so yes.
Okay.
Yes, meaning you can have whatever you want as long as you have a CCW permit?
Yep.
Well, you could have it in your house. As far as carrying it outside of your house, you're saying this, Dusty. You're saying the CC. You talking about the CPL, the concealed pistol license?
I would have a knife over certain. Technically, in Michigan, you're not supposed to wear a knife over 6 inches long. But with the CPL, you are allowed to have that knife.
Okay. All right. And that I did not know. But now the knives we have here, we've got bayonets to go with the rifles, but that's part of the collecting aspect of it. Otherwise, there's some, multi-tools or utility knives. But my oldest son, he's got throwing knives, a throwing tomahawk and throwing stars, and he's got a target in the back, but he can practice throwing. And he's gone out there and done it a little bit, not a lot, but he's expressed an interest in it. He actually wants a spear. What the hell do you do with a spear?
Hunting, or you could spear somebody. I mean,
seriously, you could hunt with it?
Yeah, you can kill a boar with a spear. Sure.
That would be badass.
That would be badass because the boar would be trying to kill you if you came at him with a spear. I promise you, you'd get a tusk somewhere if you weren't really good. Or you could throw the spear at him, and then if it doesn't work, you could, But I'm just trying to imagine living in a state where you can, you have the license to carry a Glock around or something, but you can't have a switchblade. It's just dumb. But that's the way the laws work. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for listening. We're going to close this show out, and I'll see you all back next week. And we'll keep the after.
So we need to look into Russian optics.
Russian optics, NBC sourcing, and any other gas mask info. See y'all next week.